Next portfolio, I believe, is Borys. Borys. I'm gonna assume doesn't have doesn't have sarcasm in his genes because he's German. Is that is that a thing? All right, so I think it's Boris, and if it's not, I apologize. But sounds like nothing is off limits in the review, so it's just kind of looking at the overall image. So you're a student, dude. It's crazy when I look at students' art these days. Man, they destroy what I was doing in school. You guys have so much more resources and tools that just kind of allow you to be creative. You know what I mean? Much less technical boredom and struggle, which I can appreciate. It's super cool. Allows you guys to just kind of get into it. So, you're a game art student, but it looks like you really like substance, or at least material work. Ross, what's up, man? Is this mainly a technical 3D stream? Mainly, yes. What are you, good sir? Truly and honestly, I'm curious. Okay, so back onto the portfolio. So one thing I really like about substance materials is when they kind of have this sense of layering or a sense of like the wood slats not being even, while it's a little hyper real or kind of stylized. The only thing you really need to watch out for is when you have really low light angles and you start getting these really long shadows. You'll notice in games that long shadows, this is a little technical jargon, long shadows are quite expensive when they're cascading shadow maps, the real-time shadows that you see in games. So whenever that shadow touches an object, that object has to load in, or it has to be calculated in the load in case it has to be calculated. Cascading shadow maps kind of make that happen. So when the sun is moving and the shadows start to get longer as the sun gets lower, you'll notice in a lot of games that the sun will go down much faster right near the end there, so they can just skip through it before the performance is noticed all too quickly. Until After Dark, this is mainly a 3D technical stream. What does that mean? This looks awesome though. Like your attention to detail on the surfaces of the wood slats themselves is really nice. It does give off a bit of a stylized feel. Especially with the roughness. Well, we're getting some weird music. Give me a second here. I'm gonna try this one. I don't know how this is gonna go. Yeah, so what's really nice about those nails, like ZM, I'm gonna say ZM artist. I wanted to say ZM artist, but ZM artist you are. The reason these nails are really kind of giving that umph that you're talking about is they have a different roughness to the wood, right? So they give you that different signature of light play on the surface. Later, Vader. Dude, I love saying that. Keep coming back just so I can say it. But yeah, overall, looks nice. I would suggest maybe unifying the grain roughness with the overall roughness of the wood material, and add some more variety in your roughness, like you were doing here. Logical variety. So right now you're getting some variety in this, but to kind of break away from that, unify this a little bit. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe the wood slats are painted. And then where the areas have lifted, you get a lot of wear. So then you could put some wear on the paint. And then the paint has a different roughness. So you got the nails with a different roughness. Then you got the paint and then the wood with a different roughness. It's like the power of 3 is not only in the way things are propped. Happy Gamer, hello, how you doing? Substance Designer Vader. He's got the shader ball in the grip of his hands. Let's see what else is going on. Oh, man, I always love these types of materials with the really caked grout or concrete between bricks. Weeping. Okay, what's up, man? How you doing, man? It's been a while. So this looks pretty cool. It does have that kind of roughness, like the overall roughness is pretty uniform. Wow, it gets really strong up here. I'd be careful with going too strong with the displacement just to try and keep the upper areas in line. Yeah, this is pretty awesome. It's like, I know when you go outside and you look at a wall, right? Look at a brick wall, because you know we all do that. We're just like, the wall's there, and we're like, oh. You know you're hardcore when you bring a spray bottle to see what the porosity effect is. Like, how much of a saturation goes up. You're like, oh yeah, let me get my spray bottle. And you're just like, it's bad. That's bad. Don't do it. Do it. Yeah, if I had to say anything, when you actually go and look at a brick wall in real life, especially if you have the weeping effect going on between the bricks, it's pretty rare to see that just because it's I guess it's a material waste, unless they're doing it for aesthetic reasons, right? The materials difference between these two tends to be very similar. And that's kind of where you get the difference in game art versus game art and hyperrealism versus reality. It's more pleasing to see some type of breakup, and I think there's enough noise happening in the grout that the roughness between these two is different enough. It would be nice to get some type of like a seeping look in the roughness of the bricks under the grout. And very, very subtle, like super light. It doesn't have to be like overpowering, just enough there to see the interaction, like more interaction between the two materials. So hopefully that's clear. The cracks also aren't too strange feeling. Sometimes it can be a little jarring when you see a crack that's really clean. Like this one I really like. These 3-point cracks are always feel like, I'm like, oh yeah, substance. But I mean, it happens. It happens. Can't leave home without that spray bottle. Oh, you're starting to see the end of your project? That's awesome, man. Yeah, if there's some variation in how much of this stuff was caked on, that would be really good. Some areas where it's a little thinner, it's kind of happening here, but overall it's pretty heavy. And I guess just because of the way it's displacing and that it's on a sphere, as you look further down, you see more of the top of the grout, so it becomes harder to see. This one's just nice because you get that nice material separation. This one's a good steady, more so than like oh man, this material is like blowing my mind, right? I like that, and I can tell that you did research when you see that there's the gaps between the grout behind the tiles. It's interesting to see the score lines going left to right. I guess that's a thing, right? Because there's other score lines too where you do circular patterns. And the main reason for those score lines is so that the tiles can stick better, or they adhere better and have a better chance to not chip off like they did in this material. Maybe that's why they're circle now, and this one's got a bunch of chipped ones, because the score lines are so horizontal. Oh, nice. You made it dynamic as well. That's cool. I know a little bit about Octane Renderer. I think so, Game Lincer, but I would ask the community. I think you learn the most by joining our Discord. There's no annoying me. You're fine. If I don't answer you, it's because I'm focusing on the portfolio. Bumby, yeah, I remember that game too. Let's keep going here so we can look at some other stuff. Dude, this one's sick. Oh, I love this type of render. So one thing you'll see is so if I copy this and we go into here, let's paste this. So if I look at this material, we'll just turn these off and invert the background here. You can see that there's you've got information here and information here. Just need to do there you go. So you got information here and here and here, and you can see there's this weird. There seems to be a sense of a gap in the way the details are kind of moving through each other. And I'm guessing that's the tiling. Now you can't always fully fix it, but definitely in Substance Designer, when you're trying to finalize your material, or even early on, trying to get setting your material to tile 2 to 3 times is going to help you solve these gaps pretty early. But I mean, the joy of Substance, right, is that you can fix it later, depending on how you built the material. So it's making sure that you get that kind of uniform blending happening across the material so that it tiles better. In reality as well, though, you fix this as best as you can, and then the reality is that an environment artist or a world artist is going to go in and blend on top of it anyways. And if they see tiling, they're usually going to prop over it, or they're going to find other ways to cover it up. So it's not like insanely important. It's just you want to at least try and address it in your initial pass. Love the addition of the pine cones in here. Super cool. Man, look at that. Oh. So good. That looks great. Yeah, that is pretty cool. The AO might be a little strong. I'm not sure. But yeah, and I love these type of renders just so that I can really understand the material that you were working with. So this is a material that is very difficult to pull off. Oh, say, so Mitt, good old Mitt. Your question, I will get to it right after I finish this portfolio. People in chat, make sure I don't forget. What tips for aspiring lighting artists? What should be in the portfolio? The short answer is lighting, but there's a little bit more to it. I'm trying not to. That was a bad joke. I'm sorry. So, bark is difficult. Putting moss on bark helps with the difficulties of bark. The overall impression that I'm getting from this material looks pretty good. Let's see here. I just want to make sure it's not a scan. So Substance Designer, yeah. So here it looks really good. Here it feels like it doesn't have the detail that it does here, and I'm not sure why. On the sphere though, it looks nice. This looks like bark. Looks good. This stuff here, I guess, is like dead moss that's kind of like broken down, but it's still like the base of it is still there. It's probably because of the tessellation, or the amount of space it's taking up on here, because it looks like the moss is smaller than it is on here. Bark is difficult though. Like seeing these straight lines, at some point those need to break or split and blend with other ones, and yeah, it's so organic that it's pretty difficult. And here it feels like there's some splitting and stuff especially right here. You get a little bit of, and it might be the moss, as you get a little bit of confusion as to how things are connecting, which is that's fine. Let's keep going here. Oh yeah, I remember this. I remember this scene. So I gave some feedback on this before. And I think, honestly, the end result of the final image is better than like the individual pieces themselves, right? Which is totally fine. Because like the goal is the end image, right? It's not about how these all look. This cactus looks pretty cool. I think that how it's displayed here, you're not really seeing a lot of the little dots on there, I guess because of the size. I would probably just add some more cacti around. I did comment on this rock before, and a lot of the issues that I had with it had to do with the striations in the rock, just because of how rocks form, right? It's like it's all layers. It's not making the money and spending the money. It's rock layers. So making sure that the angle of that is correct based on like how rocks form. Maybe this flew from like a volcano far away and then landed here in this angle. It just feels weird, right? With the direction of these. The sand looks pretty nice. I think there just needs to be a few more things in the scene that are in focus. Like if another cactus was here, and maybe some of the smaller ones are around here, maybe little tufts of grass or something like that. Like looking at a desert scene that's got some organics in it will really answer those questions for you. So when you look at reference, you'll see how much stuff is actually in a desert scene. I say desert scene like the reference is a desert scene. Oh yeah, someone totally propped this and then took a photo. Yeah, there is a weird blur line. Like it feels like maybe it's just a narrow range and then it's sitting like right here. Cause like this is in focus, but then it quickly goes out. The other thing that might make this image more interesting is if it was more moonlit. Because then you get the warm light from the tent. You could then show like a emissive or transmissive properties of the tent itself and the light inside. And then you'd have the cold color to contrast everything. And then it would really focus on this because I assume he would have a light as well that he's focusing in on. Yeah, I don't know what the story is. Maybe he's reading the lines. You know what I'm saying? A story is always important as well. And the fact that there's a tent here really helps with that. Yeah, the DOF is very strange for sure. I can't do this song. It's just it's too much. And I had done a feedback on this one a while back, and it was good. I liked this one. There were some issues that I brought up, which was a lot of the like silhouette issues and like the way that the foliage is hanging or the vines are hanging off of stuff. They have like this common curve where it doesn't really feel like they're interacting with the asset itself. Whereas like right here, it feels pretty good. Up here, it feels like it was placed, if that makes sense. And yet also one of the biggest things to remember is where is it coming from? That's the thing to think about. Is it coming from these? If it's coming from these, then it's like leaped across and then going down more. Usually they come from below, unless they're really close to this, then it's gonna like maybe it'll leap over. But everything like vines like to, you know, they like to grow up, right? They like to become adults, so they're just like, man, I'm just gonna grow upwards. And then the other thing that I think I was commenting on was it's just the geometry in general for the way that the foliage is kind of displayed. These look pretty cool, and the lighting is really interesting. The saturation might be a little high on the foliage itself, and maybe it would be nice to even get some color variety in those greens, just so there's a little bit more breakup in the color itself. This looks cool though. This looks pretty cool. But yeah, so if I had to look at this portfolio, I would say depending on what you want to do, if you want to be a material artist, I would keep hammering on that. Think about tiling. Think about the roughness variation. If you want to get into scenes, think about storytelling. Think about composition, framing. Again, storytelling. Storytelling is super important with this type of stuff. But yeah, it's dope. It's dope. Nice job. Thank you for the portfolio to review, and we'll be right back with another one in like, I don't know, 10 seconds. Something like that.